conversations are happening with Treasury for transformational money to help us transform our health service so that cancer wait times and medical pathways can be improved once and for all.
Well, I share the honourable member's wish, as does the whole House, to improve cancer treatment and cancer waiting times for those who are currently waiting too long. There is the Public Services Transformation Fund. The first phase of projects was funded last year. Decisions are about to be taken on the second phase of funding. But there also needs, as my honourable friend mentioned earlier, to be reform of the way in which the health service works. We're seeing progress under Mike Nesbitt's leadership. We need to see more.
Challenger, Shadow Minister, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Now, the increase in national insurance contributions is having a devastating impact on the hospitality sector in Northern Ireland, with over a quarter of businesses reporting losses and a further 20% only breaking even. So how is the Northern Ireland Executive expected to achieve its target of doubling tourism in the next 10 years if the Chancellor of the Exchequer is putting pubs, restaurants and hotels out of business?
Well, the increase in national insurance was a decision that the government took to deal with the inheritance of the last government. Well, it is a fact, and no one can argue that that is not the case, to put the economy on a stable footing. The fact that the Northern Ireland economy overall is growing in the way that it is, the fact that it has the lowest unemployment in the United Kingdom, is a sign of the fundamental strength of the economy in Northern Ireland.
Sarah Hall.
Question number 5, Mr. Speaker.
Minister.
With permission, Mr. Speaker, I'll answer questions 5 and 10 together. Mr. Speaker, chances in life are set early. While of course education in Northern Ireland is devolved, we must work together. So that's why it was my privilege to bring the Minister for Early Years to Belfast recently to visit with schools and to present to Northern Ireland ministers at the East West Council. We discussed the school twinning programme, the theme of which is reading for pleasure. And as a new dad, I'm reading quite a few baby books at the moment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As Chair of the APPG on Inclusion and Nurturing Education, I welcome the Northern Ireland Department's Education's independent research showing that nurture provision delivers measurable improvements in pupils' behaviour, attendance and attainment. What discussions are being had to share this good practice in inclusive education with the rest of the UK, including officials in England, as the government seeks to improve inclusion and educational outcomes for all?
Minister.
Well, just last month, with the Early Years Minister, I went to schools that are really focused on being inclusive and nurturing for pupils. My honourable friend is totally right to highlight how this work can have such a positive impact on the children in our schools.
Just Upwell.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the Minister agree with me about the importance of the Northern Ireland Executive and the Government sharing knowledge, expertise and best practice as we all seek to improve outcomes for children in all our schools?
Minister.
I absolutely do, Mr. Speaker. I've always said this is not the case of cutting a cheque and walking away. There is work we can do with the Northern Ireland Executive and we continue to share best practice. In fact, just this week I wrote to the Minister for Early Years to explore further opportunities for collaboration.
Gregory Camp.
Mr. Speaker, last year's spending review, the NIO announced a £2 million allocation to support the integrated education sector. Given that there are a range of schools in Northern Ireland that have been offering an integrated educational ethos for many years, will they review that policy to support integrated education per se across a number of schools in Northern Ireland?
Minister.
We support integrated education. Integrated schools are a really important part of that. I was recently at some shared education schools, which at the request of the Minister, I was impressed by some of the work being done there, but I don't think it's just one route for the schools in Northern Ireland.
Oh, Jim Shuff.
Mr. Speaker, can I thank the Minister for his answer? Minister, the Education Minister in Northern Ireland, Paul Givan, has been keen to introduce in the schools a smartphone restriction upon students. He has a pilot scheme in place. Government here are happy to do the same thing. Has the Minister had an opportunity to encourage the Minister in Northern Ireland educationally to bring in the smartphone restriction in schools, while there is one member of the Executive, one party in the Executive, who wish to stop that? The will of the people is to make sure that it happens.
Stuff.
I was with the Minister for Education recently. This is not a topic that came up. Obviously, these matters are devolved and are matters for the Northern Ireland Executive, but I would obviously be happy to speak to Minister Givan as he suggests.
Sir David Davis. Mr. Tonya.
Mr. Speaker, there are currently 6 Republican paramilitaries facing prosecution for Troubles-related killings. The Commission is already investigating a number of IRA atrocities, including the M62 coach bombing, the Guildford pub bombing, and the Warren Point massacre. And under the Troubles Bill, the Commission will benefit from information sharing by the Irish authorities.
2,058 people died at the hands of Republican paramilitaries during the Troubles. 2,058. Despite that fact, only 19 IRA members are currently in prison. So the Secretary of State laughably claims there was no amnesty under the Good Friday Agreement, and he gives us these few he's just talked about. Can he tell the House how many prosecutions of IRA members he expects to arise under his Troubles Bill, and how many families of people murdered by the IRA will find out what happened to their relatives?
Secretary of State.
Well, the answer to his first question is... The answer to his first question, it will depend, as he well knows, on the evidence in any individual case. That decision will be taken by public prosecutors in the normal way. Secondly, he will be aware that between 25,000 and 35,000 paramilitaries were imprisoned during the course of the Troubles for a range of offences, including murder, and the purpose of the reform is to ensure that more families are able to find answers to the questions that they are still asking about what happened to their loved ones.
The Select Committee, Tonya Antoniazzi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On the subject of the Troubles-era violence, this week my committee published a unanimous report calling on the government to formally name Agent Stakeknife. The government have said that the Supreme Court judgment in the Thompson case has implications for their decision, but lead officers have said it does not. So what is preventing the government naming Stakeknife, and when do they plan to do so?
Well, I have, of course, seen the report that the Select Committee has published. There are ongoing civil proceedings, and the government is, as I indicated previously, still considering the implications of the Thompson Supreme Court judgment for this decision. I have promised the House that I will return when the government has reached a decision on the request that's been made from Sir Ian Livingstone, and I intend to honour that promise.
That completes questions. A point of order to the question you raised.
In view of the inadequate response I received from the Secretary of State for question 7, I give notice I intend to raise this matter on the adjournment.
What I would say is, the Honourable Member has put it on the record his decision. What I would say, I'm not going to extend Northern Ireland questions. So I'm now going to move on to the Prime Minister's questions. But before I do, I would like to welcome the President of Parliament, the Speaker himself, and I've got to say thank you to his delegation for arriving with us today from Estonia. So first of all, we now go to one said Toby Perkins for Prime Minister's questions.
Number 1, sir.
Prime Minister. I just said I didn't know the Prime Minister was that popular on this side.
Mr. Speaker, can I start by saying this? My thoughts, and I'm sure the thoughts of the whole House, are with the 2 children stabbed at Kingsbury High School in Brent. And my heart goes out to everyone affected by this appalling attack. We thank the police for their rapid response. It's important now that we give them the space to pursue their investigation. And, Mr. Speaker, this morning I conveyed the UK's deepest condolences to Prime Minister Carney and the people of Canada for the devastating shooting in Tumbler Ridge. Mr. Speaker, I'm determined to fix the broken SEND system. No parent should have to fight for the support their child needs. Today we announced a 10-year plan to fix the crumbling school estate that we inherited, delivering a more modern and inclusive classrooms that meet the needs of every child. Mr. Speaker, this morning I had meetings with ministerial colleagues. Now, there's been quite a few of those this week. In addition to my duties in this House, I shall have further such meetings later today.
Thank you. I'd like to associate myself with the Prime Minister's remarks there. The Prime Minister's commitment to 1.5 million more homes will require 48,000 new entrants to the construction industry every year. In Chesterfield, we're doing our bit. The Construction Skills Hub brought 70 new entrants into the construction sector, and we did see a welcome increase in numbers across the country last year. But we need a step change. We need numbers to double. So can the Prime Minister tell the House what steps he is taking to get more people to commit to construction industry careers and get those numbers up where we need them to deliver on his housing ambitions?
Prime Minister.
Well, my honourable friend is right. The task of rebuilding our country is a huge opportunity to give young people a brilliant career. And we're backing apprentices with a record £3 billion budget. And we're making sure companies who bid for major contracts commit to high-quality apprenticeships here in the United Kingdom. And, Mr. Speaker, we're creating 13,000 new opportunities for young people as plumbers, engineers and bricklayers, securing their future and rebuilding this country.
We come to the Leader of the Opposition, Kemi Badenoch.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And can I associate my side of the House with the Prime Minister's words on the horrific stabbing in North London yesterday, as well as the shooting in Canada? When he was Leader of the Opposition, the Prime Minister said, and I quote,
"But let me say this, Mr. Speaker. Let me say this, Mr. Speaker. Morgan McSweeney helped me change our party and helped me win a landslide election victory, which delivered for them the smallest Tory party in over 100 years. And what's her great achievement? To make it even smaller."
Kemi Badenoch.
The Whips have done a great job today. This is like the 37th... Oh, he said, yeah, exactly. Done a great job today getting them cheering. We all know that they've been sick for the last week. Because let's remember, Mr. Speaker, just last week, he told us that he had full confidence in his Chief of Staff, Morgan McSweeney. On Sunday, he sacked Morgan McSweeney. Last week, he resigned. Yes. Last week, Mr. Speaker, he was defending the Cabinet Secretary. Now he is sacking him. What changed?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, in January she said she had full confidence, 100% confidence, she said, be no more defections from her party. 48 hours later, the Shadow Foreign Minister defected. 8 days after that, the former Home Secretary defected. The only question now is, who's next? She needs to wake up. Her party is dying.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister is demonstrating stratospheric levels of delusion if he thinks the problem is on this side of the House. And he didn't say anything about why the Cabinet Secretary is going. We know the truth. It is because he is throwing everyone under a bus except himself. Mr. Speaker, the Mandelson episode was not an isolated incident. A few weeks ago, he announced a peerage for one Matthew Doyle, his former Director of Communications. Immediately after that, the Sunday Times published on the front page that Doyle campaigned for a man charged with child sex offences. Yet, despite the Prime Minister knowing this, he gave Doyle a job for life in the House of Lords anyway. Why?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, Matthew Doyle did not give a full account of his actions. And on Monday, I promised my party and my country there would be change. And yesterday, I removed the whip from Matthew Doyle. I'll tell you what other action we've taken, Mr. Speaker. Along with the Safeguarding Minister, I and this government have introduced the most far-reaching violence against women and girls strategy. And I'll tell you what else we've done. This government has introduced a pay rise for millions of working-class women. What did the Leader of the Opposition do? She opposed it. government's introducing greater protection for women at work. What did the Leader of the Opposition do? She opposed it. And I'll tell you what else she opposes. This government removing the disgusting rape clause that they put in place.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister pretends not to know about Matthew Doyle. It was on the front page of the Sunday Times. He cannot explain why he gave this man a peerage, and I think they should be wondering why they're still cheering for him after that. And the Prime Minister, sometimes likes to claim, as he just did, that he cares about violence against women. The truth is, he only cares about the victims when he's trying to save his own skin. They can shake their heads. We saw it with grooming gangs. We saw it with Mandelson. And now we see it with Doyle. Isn't that what a former prosecutor would call an established pattern of behaviour?
Mr. Speaker, I'm going to take no lectures from the Tories in standards in public life. She defended Partygate for months and months and months. And even now she says it was overblown. The Shadow Foreign Secretary broke the ministerial code by bullying. Boris Johnson kept her. The Leader of the Opposition promoted her. She sits on her front bench. Her former Shadow Justice Secretary complained about not seeing enough white faces in Birmingham, and she was too weak to sack him for racism.
Nobody buys it, Mr. Speaker. Not even the Labour women, because they know he always puts the Downing Street Boys Club first. And how dare he criticise us? We weren't the ones stuffing government with hypocrites and paedophile apologists. He can't build a team, Mr. Speaker. He has no plan. He can't even run his own office, let alone the country. He is now dealing with a new scandal of appointing someone who campaigned for a man convicted of having indecent pictures of girls as young as 10. Isn't the Prime Minister ashamed that that will be his legacy?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, my legacy is changing my party and winning a general election. And I'll tell you this, I kicked my former leader out of my party. Her former leader, Liz Truss, broke the economy and has descended into bonkers conspiracy theories. I kicked her out of Parliament. She's too weak to kick her out of their party.
Kemi Badenoch.
Mr. Speaker, he hasn't apologised for appointing Matthew Doyle because he won't take responsibility. He never does, and they know it. The Prime Minister is now telling everyone that he's never lost a fight. It's because he won't step into the ring. He's never lost a fight. He's walked away from welfare reform. He won't stand up to the unions. He won't stand up to China. He can't even stand up to Mauritius. He's had, Mr. Speaker, he's had 3 cabinet secretaries, 4 chiefs of staff, 5 director of communications in just 18 months. And now he is mired in yet another scandal. Does he ever look in the mirror and ask himself, is the real problem staring him in the face?
Mr. Speaker, I delivered a landslide victory for our government. Only 4 people have ever led the Labour Party to victory in a general election. I am one of them. And she talks about numbers. Let us remember, Mr. Speaker, 5 Prime Ministers, 7 Chancellors, 8 Home Secretaries, 8 Foreign Secretaries, 16 Housing Secretaries, all completely useless, all failed Britain, and this Prime Minister's clearing up the mess. She comes here every week desperately fighting to save her dying party. I'm fighting to change our country. Interest rates down. Inflation down, waiting lists down, child poverty down, and I'll tell you another thing's down, the number of Tory MPs.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The government has delivered the funding needed to rebuild the new Frimley Park Hospital after the party opposite made empty, unfunded promises to my constituents. Now we urgently need to get on with announcing the preferred site, along with the investment needed to improve public transport, road access and parking. Will the Prime Minister urge NHS England to make this a priority and help give much-needed clarity to Bracknell Forest residents?
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, delivering the new Frimley Park Hospital is a priority. under the party opposite, his constituents were given totally empty promises. They failed patients and they failed staff. We put a proper plan and the funding to match, and the Trust are making real progress on the business case, and I want to see spades in the ground as quickly as possible.
Said David, Leader of the Liberal Democrats.
Mr Speaker, can I associate myself with the Prime Minister's remarks about the dreadful stabbing of 2 children in Brent and about the horrifying shootings in British Columbia? Our thoughts and prayers are with the children's parents and the people of Canada, especially those grieving the loss of loved ones. Mr Speaker, to appoint one paedophile supporter cannot be excused as misfortune. To appoint 2 shows a catastrophic lack of judgment. The Right Honourable Gentleman once told this House that when a Prime Minister refuses to take responsibility, and I quote, "It only serves to convince people that things cannot get better, that governments cannot improve people's lives, and that progress is not possible because politics does not work." Does he still agree with himself? And does he share my fear that that is exactly what is happening now?
Minister. People in this country, millions of people, have been let down for years and years and years. And one of the reasons was austerity, which his party supported. He should take accountability and take responsibility for what he has inflicted on this country.
Sherrod Davey.
Mr Speaker, I think I touched a raw nerve. But I think the whole House will agree that the Manson scandal has shown yet again why we need a duty of candour for anyone and everyone in public office. Mr Speaker, there should be no more delays in putting the Hillsborough Law on the statute books. After the long fight by the bereaved families and so many others, like the Mayor of Greater Manchester. The Prime Minister once said it would be one of the first things he did in number 10. Will he finally do it now, even if it's the last thing he does?
Prime Minister.
The panel report in the Hillsborough case was when I started working on the Hillsborough case. That was in 2012, when his party were in power. And they could have passed this law a long time ago and saved a lot of grief. I'm proud that this Labour government is bringing in a Hillsborough law, something I've committed to for a very, very long time.
Richard Quidley.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. As the Prime Minister will have heard me say, the Isle of Wight is a fantastic place to live, work and learn, despite the Leader of the Opposition trying to give us to China. He will also be aware of some of the challenges we have in cross-Solent transport, reliability, frequency and price. The emissions trading scheme, which ironically only applies to hybrid vessels, may increase fares further. Despite exemptions granted for Scotland and Northern Ireland, the lack of grid capacity to fully decarbonise, I am deeply concerned about the impact on our island community. Will the Prime Minister urgently ask DESNZ ministers to review this issue?
Minister.
Well, thank him for his question. I know how important affordable ferries are for his constituents' everyday lives. The ETS scheme will make journeys cleaner, and we're working with ferry companies on the grid connections in ports that enable greener vessels. I'll make sure that he gets a meeting with the relevant minister.
Stephen Flynn.
Mr Speaker, if I've just listened to the Prime Minister correctly, he's essentially rolled the same pitch in relation to Matthew Doyle as he did with Peter Mandelson, that they weren't clear with him. He appears to be the most gullible former Director of Public Prosecutions in history. But he has a slight problem, Mr Speaker, because some of us do read the newspapers. And towards the end of last year, indeed on the 30th of December, having written to the House of Lords Appointments Commission, I received a response from the Chair, who advised me that as part of their vetting, they provide confidential advice to the Prime Minister on the propriety of a potential nominee. Will he release that advice?
Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, I've made my position for clear. He knows how the system works. But, Mr Speaker, he says he reads the newspapers. He will have read that in 9 days their former party chief executive goes on trial for embezzling money. And if he'll have read that the Queen Elizabeth Hospital, we see one of the worst failures in Scottish public life. Vulnerable children and adults put at risk. Evidence of serious warnings to the SNP government were ignored. He should have been looking at those, not looking at the newspapers. The First Minister should act because families deserve accountability.
Can I just remind the Prime Minister we don't discuss live cases because it's sub judice. Anna Dixon.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Last week I met Leighton, a T-level construction student at Bradford College. He was working on the remediation of wreck at Airedale Hospital. In the last few years, Bradford has made tremendous progress in reducing the rate of young people not in employment, education or training. So will the Prime Minister reconfirm his commitment to vocational and skills training and set out how this Labour government is ensuring that young people like Leighton have career opportunities in construction and other critical industries?
Well, I thank my honourable friend. Leighton's success is a testament to what young people can achieve with the right support. We're creating technical excellent colleges and delivering training places for 60,000 skilled construction workers. And Labour's creating opportunities for every young person whilst building the homes, the schools and the hospitals that our country needs. And that's what I'm fighting for.
Rebecca Smith.
Last year, Plymouth was named the National Centre for Marine Autonomy and given a defence growth deal. However, the SMEs in the unmanned surface vessel sector, many based at Turnchapel Wharf in my constituency, are having their work held back because of out-of-date regulations from the Maritime and Coast Guard Agency. Last week, I was told that draft regulations exist, but that they require primary legislation. Now, without these new regulations, many of these vital SMEs developing autonomous vessels that have dual commercial and defence use are at risk. So, Mr. Speaker, will the Prime Minister show some backbone and consider finding a slot for primary legislation as a matter of urgency, or at least consider adding it to the King's speech later this spring, assuming that he is still in charge of the legislative programme by then?
Mr. Speaker, we are taking action, but in the particular case she raises in her constituency, if she sends me or my team the details, I'll see what there's anything we can do to support what is obviously an important issue.
Steve Race.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Prime Minister will be aware of Lorraine Cox, a resident of Exeter, who in 2020 was murdered by a man whose asylum claim had been denied but who is not removed from this country. Would the Prime Minister set out what more this government will do to make sure deportations of people who have no right to be here and of those who have committed criminal offences will be sped up? And would he meet with Lorraine's father to discuss the family's campaign for justice for Lorraine?
Prime Minister.
Well, my honourable friend raises an awful case, and my thoughts and those, I'm sure, of the whole House are with the loved ones of Lorraine. Tackling violence against women and girls is a critical mission, and I'll make sure the Home Office Minister meets the family. I want to be absolutely clear, Mr. Speaker, illegal immigrants who commit such appalling acts should not be in this country. That's why we've already removed nearly 60,000 people with no right to be here, and deportations of foreign criminals is up by a third. We're also reforming human rights law to allow us to swiftly remove those with no right to be here.
Luke Glover.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My Oxfordshire constituents are sick of widespread potholes, particularly at Milton Interchange, Didcot and along the A417 serving Challow and Stamford in the Vale. Yet the government is cutting funding for Oxfordshire County Council by £24 million over 3 years, which is equivalent to its annual highways maintenance budget. The Prime Minister is of course entitled to dig a pothole for himself, but why is he cutting funding for Oxfordshire's roads?
Prime Minister.
We put a record amount of money into dealing with potholes. He needs to ask his council, run by his party, why they're not using that money.
Douglas McAllister.
It's a source of great pride to Scottish Labour MPs that as Chancellor, Gordon Brown lifted more children out of poverty than any other Chancellor before him. It's also a source of great pride that this...
Order. Mr Flynn, you don't need to go behind. I can still hear you. Your voice is louder than mine. Douglas McAllister.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. It's also a source of great pride that this torch is now passed over to our government, and by removing the two-child benefit cap, we will lift more children out of poverty in a single parliament than ever before. 2,260 children in Western Bartonshire, 95,000 in Scotland. Does the Prime Minister agree that this demonstrates true Labour values in action across Scotland and the UK?
Well, on this side of the House, Mr Speaker, we know the damage that growing up in poverty does to the life chances of children. The Tories put hundreds of thousands of children into poverty, and they'll live with that for the rest of their lives. We are undoing their damage. Our decision will benefit almost 100,000 children in Scotland as we deliver the largest reduction in child poverty in any single parliament.
Leila Wilson.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. The manslaughter of baby Gigi Meehan at a nursery in Cheadle. 21 counts of child cruelty at Riverside Nursery in Twickenham Green in my constituency. 56 charges of sexual assault and creating indecent images at a nursery in Camden. And just this week, 21 counts of sexual abuse at a nursery in Bristol. Mr. Speaker, CCTV was critical for convicting the criminals in most of these cases. So will the Prime Minister ensure that no parent ever has to fear for their child's safety while they go to work by introducing mandatory CCTV in nurseries and a childcare workers register?
Prime Minister.
Can I thank her for raising these cases? And they're harrowing cases for everyone in this country. The safety of children is, of course, paramount, and we're acting to keep them safe. We're implementing all the proposals consulted on to strengthen safeguarding as part of our early years foundation stage framework. Expert group developing guidance on the effective use of CCTV, the point she makes, and considering whether it should be mandatory in early settings. And I'll make sure that she's updated as we take that work forward.
Catherine West.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. 126 years ago, this House legislated to make Alexandra Palace available for the free use of the public forever. And last year, Luke the Nuke changed darts forever by rewriting the record books. Today, Ali Pali plays host to World Championship Darts, Master Snooker, Haringey Huskies, Greyhounds for ice hockey, plus music, comedy, drama and more. Will the PM today keep the Palace competitive as the international venue for darts by supporting my campaign to raise a one-off public-private £500 million investment for urgent capital improvements?
Prime Minister.
Can I thank my honourable friend? The People's Palace is an iconic British venue, a home for darts, snooker and world-class music. It's vital that we support brilliant venues that give so much to our cultural life. And that's why, Mr. Speaker, we're providing almost £200 million to preserve heritage buildings across the country, so venues like Alexandra Palace can have a bright future.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Last week, Stark Bay was devastated by storm damage, homes and businesses wrecked, and an important A road severed. Thousands who used it to commute to school, work and healthcare are stranded, bus routes broken, emergency vehicles blocked. And the 300,000 visitors who come annually and underpin our fragile tourist economy now in doubt. But this is a place that has stepped up twice to defend our country. Once, when 1.5 million cubic metres of shingle were dredged out of the bay to build the naval dockyards in Plymouth, and again, when it was used as the training ground for the D-Day landings, at a cost of 750 American soldiers' lives. It is also the site of a unique national nature reserve with rare species found only here. This storm damage is of national significance, so I ask the Prime Minister if he will ensure that the myriad of government agencies and departments needed will work together with experts to find and fund a sustainable long-term solution to the coastal erosion that is inflicting so much...
Order! It's a very important question, but I'm sure the Prime Minister must have got it in the first 2 minutes. Prime Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Look, I know communities have been badly affected by recent storms, and damage to the A379 is very concerning. I'm pleased that she, I think, is meeting the Roads and Floods Minister today, I think. We are investing £10 billion to improve coastal and flood defences. And I want to thank the Environment Agency staff who are working hard right now, putting extra protections in place and supporting people ahead of further wet weather.
Please, Corgan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. For too long, communities like mine in Bartley Green felt decisions were made about them, not with them. 14 years of austerity did not just close neighbourhood offices and youth services, it broke trust. Through Pride in Place in Woodgate, this government is helping residents restore the Woodgate Valley Cafe and so much more. What is the Prime Minister's message to my constituents about how politics can be a force for good and that he will never walk away from my community and the country we love?
Well, I thank her for a question. My message is that I've always believed that those with skin in the game make the best decisions about their community. And I know just how much her constituents want Woodgate Valley Visitor Centre back open. Together, I do think we can make that happen. And if you want to know, Mr. Speaker, where hope is in Britain, is in our communities. And that's why we're investing so heavily in our Pride in Place initiative.
James Wilde.
Thank you very much. My constituents' mum, sister and stepfather were killed in a horrific, dangerous driving crime, and the foreign national offender was sentenced to 10.5 years. But the family have just been told that he may be released imminently in order to be deported, having served just 3 years. Will the Prime Minister look at this case and what steps can be taken to prevent that release, given such a pitiful service time? 3 years for 3 lives would be the final insult, undermine public confidence in our justice system. Prime Minister.
Can I thank him for raising what is obviously a terrible case, and I'll make sure that it's looked into if he could provide further details so we can do it as quickly as possible.
David Pinto.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Our democracy in this House relies on the spoken word, but many with speech disabilities are left without a voice. I have a speech impediment. So do 2 million adults and 1 in 12 children. It can rob people of their confidence, lead to discrimination and limit our opportunities in work and in public life. It's time to tear down these barriers. Can the Prime Minister share with what this government is doing to help people with speech disabilities get the support they need so their voices can be heard?
Prime Minister.
Can I start by saying he is an inspirational and powerful campaigner on this issue, and by doing what he's doing, he will give great courage to other people to take the same steps. I'm proud we're increasing the number of NHS speech and language therapists. We're trialling new ways of identifying and supporting children with speech and language needs in their early years, because I agree that every child deserves the help they need to reach their potential.
Dr. L. Pinkerton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My Surrey Heath constituent, Christopher, was discharged from the RAF in 1966 solely for being gay. But despite the government committing to restoring the medals, the berets, and indeed acknowledging the injustice of those discharged from our armed forces prior to 1967, his case has been dismissed out of hand with only a letter that contained the track changes from the template that the MOD issued. So can I ask the Prime Minister to take a personal interest in this case to ensure that it's resolved swiftly and to allow Christopher to march on Remembrance Day as he wishes to with his medals and his beret and his dignity restored?
Prime Minister.
I will do everything I can to ensure that that happens, which is absolutely what should happen. This was an absolute scandal, the gays in the military ban, and it's absolutely right that it was overturned, but we must follow through on that, and I'll do everything I can to make sure that we deliver on what he's asked me to deliver on.
Daniel Zeitner.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Last week, the government launched a consultation on establishing a growth development corporation for Cambridge. And in the meantime, Peter Freeman, the chairman of the Cambridge Growth Company, is on the record as saying we should aim to be the most livable city in Europe. That's a fantastic ambition, one which I entirely agree with. And I'd ask the Prime Minister, given that this will be good for growth, not just for Cambridge, but for the region and the wider economy, what more can the government do to help us, not least to help that generation of young people who can barely afford a home?
Prime Minister.
Well, his constituency is already home to brilliant research, innovation and economic growth. And through a greater Cambridge Development Corporation, we'll put in the powers and resources to unlock its full potential. I want to let local people have their say. We'll make sure that we create a fair plan with attractive, well-connected and thriving new neighbourhoods.
Tom Tugendal.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Would the Prime Minister share with me the concern that while some ambassadors retiring in disgrace get tens of thousands of pounds in payoff, many other civil servants are failing to get the retirement that they are due and are expected to turn to their old departments for bridging loans? This is clearly a scandal. Would he put all behind making sure that those who have served with integrity are treated with the dignity that they deserve?
Prime Minister.
Yes, we are taking steps, and he's right, we should take further steps, and I think that will be agreed across the House.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The announcement that pubs and music venues would receive a much welcomed reduction in business rates is a positive step. However, in our manifesto, we did promise root and branch reform of business rates. Hospitality and leisure businesses in my Stourbridge constituency are facing a projected £20,000 increase in business rates over the next 3 years, along with employment cost increases and energy costs. Hospitality and leisure play a vital role for our communities, providing jobs and spaces to socialise. So will the Prime Minister consider a similar rates relief package for hospitality and leisure?
She's right that we need the conditions for flourishing high streets, and it underscores the importance of 6 interest rate cuts, the £5.8 billion that we put into Pride in place, and the work to put money in people's pockets. I'm pleased we've delivered a 15% cut and a 2-year freeze for pubs and live music venues. That comes on top of the £4.3 billion to support businesses and permanently lower rates for retail, hospitality and leisure properties.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the Prime Minister for raising the stabbing at Kingsbury High School yesterday. It is absolutely right that we allow the police to get on with their job of investigating this terrible atrocity, and indeed the police are out there now providing reassurance to parents and people in the community. And indeed, I'm sure I speak for the whole House when our thoughts and prayers are with the victims, their families, and also those that witness this atrocity. But will the Prime Minister now look at what needs to be done to combat knife crime across the country? It is absolutely wrong that people are carrying knives in the first place when they don't need to, and indeed they're drawn into this terrible atrocity. We owe it to the victims to ensure this happens.
Prime Minister.
Can I thank him for raising this case? And it's one of the most powerful and important things that we do as MPs in this place, particularly when there's such awful cases. And he's absolutely right. We must do everything we can to reduce knife crime. There are initiatives and steps we've taken to remove the accessibility of knives where they can be bought. We need to do much more work with our schools and young people to ensure that people don't carry knives. And we need to work with the police and law enforcement to make sure that these incidents are investigated as quickly and as effectively as possible. And I think that's a shared endeavour across the House.
Sarah Edwards.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In my constituency, the beautiful Grade 2 listed Chetwynd Bridge on the A513 between Eddingale and Alwas has been restricted to cars and light vans since October of 2023. So farmers are facing a 25-mile diversion, and with severe flooding now hitting Eddingale multiple times a year, this vital route risks being cut off for emergency response times as well. Bridges like this, with a clear economic impact on communities, should be the focus of the government's new structures fund, which I welcome. So can I ask the Prime Minister to encourage his ministers to meet with me so that we can find a solution to this issue for my rural constituents in time?
Well, can I thank her for raising this issue, and just hearing her makes it absolutely clear that we need to find a solution to this, so I'll make sure that she gets the meeting that she is requesting with the relevant minister so we can move as quickly as possible.
Ayab Khan, final question.
Mr. Speaker, rubbish is building up right beneath my very nose. It's becoming...
Easy, Tiger.
It's becoming a serious problem in Birmingham. In Birmingham, bin strikes are now running over close to 2 years. So can I ask gently the Prime Minister to intervene and perhaps speak to the leader of Birmingham City Council to see if he can re-enter negotiations with Unite the Union?
Yeah, he's right to raise this, and we're doing everything we can to resolve the situation, which absolutely needs resolving.
That completes Prime Minister's questions. Point of order, Rachel Blake.
Mr. Speaker, on a point of order, yesterday a Reform UK MP visited a synagogue in my constituency and failed to notify me of this visit. It was a political visit. It is part of a pattern that has been observed at a time when we need to work together in our communities to tackle anti-Semitism, this terrible